And Dory said, happy Bastille Day. Yes, happy Bastille Day. If there's any questions as you're working on this sky, please do not hesitate to ask. And you're going to get to a point where like, okay, I think I'm close. One of the things you can do that I always teach in these classes is leaning back in your chair. You don't have to close one eye, but if you want to, it's fun. But getting a different perspective, sometimes when we paint, we're focused on certain areas and our nose is right up in the front of it. So it's good to kind of take a break throughout these classes and reflect on your work throughout the class. It will increase your level of happiness as you leave because you will have more time to reflect on your work and make any modifications or add anything else that might make it your true personal touch. So for me, I have this kind of nighttime sky. I've incorporated a little bit of the black and blues. You can see I had just a little bit of black and I was mixing in a little bit of the blue. Quite fun. Sally, I can absolutely share the recording with you. Absolutely. So again, at this point, we're working on our sky. I'll keep an eye on the clock and I'll give everyone a full minute just for any final adjustments. And then I'll check in with you all in a minute to see if you need more time. But we're going to be putting fireworks on top of this. So I would say just get the base colors in because a lot of like the brush strokes and the gradient will have objects on top. So you're not going to be able to see every bit of detail you just did, but you'll just see basically the color blending if you're doing color blending. And then we can transition to doing our black mountain and tree line on top of the horizon line next. Should be quite fun. Right. I'm just going to make a couple notes here of the folks that need recordings as folks are painting and finishing up their skies. Sally, I hope your partner is with you tonight, shoulder to shoulder here. All right. So I will go, I'm going to switch back to gallery view. Many of you don't have videos on, which is totally fine. I'm going to go ahead and transition us to the black silhouette next. If you need more time on your sky, feel free to keep working on your sky. There's no rush, but I am going to, for time's sake, I'm going to transition us to doing the black tree line next. So the tree line is, I'm going to use black. If you wanted to use a little blue and a little black, you could. I would have you grab one of the smaller brushes I sent you. You can choose. I'm going to use plain black. If maybe I'll add like a little bit of blue, but the plain black will be just fine. And what we're going to do to start is we're going to do a black line at the bottom of the horizon line. And this line we want fairly straight. So the blue line and coming down to the white may not have been entirely straight, but this is where we can kind of correct ourselves. So this is where we're going to come in. And if it's not perfectly straight, obviously don't kill yourself. This is where we just want to do a black line just to ground ourselves from where the sky needs to land. And then we're going to add on top of this. So I'm just taking my time. I like to use my pinky. So I'm a lefty. I like to use my pinky to stabilize my hand on the canvas. My blue is dry. Yours is either wet or nearly dry. And I'm just taking my time. I'm just doing small sweeps to have a nice solid base. Okay, that's not too bad. So now you get to decide what you want in this horizon line. So if you're in the mood to do trees, then you can do some short trees. The height of whatever you're going to do needs to be like less than 2 inches. So, you know, no higher than, you know, here. You can kind of do a little bit of a dot. I'll do a couple trees and I'll do some mountains as well. So you can kind of add on whatever you wish. I'm just doing kind of a tall, pointy tree. You also, this is also silhouettes, so you don't need to be too detailed here. I'm just going to do a tree line, and the trick with these tree lines is doing some highs and lows. See how it's some are high, some are low, and I'm leaving some spacing, and I'm just doing little kind of dabs. And these trees are tall and thin. Sometimes folks do wider trees. That's totally fine. In the inspiration, they're entirely filled in. I'm kind of doing some fun texture. So I'd say if you want these to be all totally black, like the inspiration, you can. I'm having like a little bit of fun tonight with like leaving a little bit of the blue behind. Maybe these trees are a little bit more, less full, right? So I'm just going to work my way across. I'll do a couple trees, but I'll do a mountain over here too to show you. So if anybody wants to do kind of a mountain and trees, you could do both. I could even put a tree over here on top of my mountain. Imagine that. And my mountain will be entirely black. So any landscape that you want to add to this horizon line, you may. So you can choose. And you might have your own idea of something else and different that you might want to include. That's fine too. Take a minute to build this out any way that you wish. My mountain's going to be entirely black. Let's do another little smaller hump or a little mini mountain in the distance. Maybe these trees are in the foreground and these mountains are in the distance because they're a little smaller. Smaller you make something, the further away it will appear. It's always fun to play around with the objects that you add to a horizon line. We've done many things like this in our classes, and I don't know if I've ever done trees and mountains, so that's kind of fun. It's always fun to mix it up. And if there's any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask, but you're all doing phenomenal. Sure you are. Miss Jean has joined us. All right. If anybody has any clarifying questions on the details that I'm doing, feel free to let me know. But I'm with these mountains and these hills, the more natural peaks you add, the more realistic it will look. So try to add in a couple extra tiny humps or rocks kind of coming off. You have some brand new, really nice brushes that I sent you, and having a nice clean brush with a nice tip on it helps you implement some of those more unique details, more precise details per se. So we'll give everyone a minute. This is where we all kind of slow down to enjoy the details. And as you're working on this, I was sharing with other folks that just joined, the August classes were just posted. So I'm going to take a minute now to put those links in the chat window. The classes tend to fill up quickly if you're new. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now while folks are painting away. There is a Thursday class and a Sunday class. It's the same schedule every month. And a big thanks to AARP Vermont. We will be continuing these classes through the end of the year. So amazing, amazing privilege to be able to support you on your art journey. Tell your friends, bring a friend or a family member. We love having you. All right. So in the chat window, I just posted the class on the 11th and the 14th. And the class for August, we are painting a peaceful summer garden. We're actually painting on a black canvas, which is going to be really fun and different with some beautiful bright flowers on top. So if anybody's interested in joining, please go ahead and sign up. And that is the link to the AARP.org website. And Linda also mentioned there's a lot of other, there's volunteer opportunities and there's a lot of other events that AARP Vermont offers. So on that same page, you can check out all the other resourcing and offering that AARP Vermont has to provide. So very exciting to share that. All right. So I want everybody to take a look at these details. Some of you are probably refining at this point. Lean back in your chair and let's take just a minute just to refine this space. And then if you want to come back to this, we can. But we're going to move on. I think I'm going to fill in some of this. If you want to make your trees a little taller to kind of accentuate the height, you could do that. I kept some distance in between, just kind of making some adjustments. My trees are very abstract. They are not perfect by any form. I'm not striving for perfection here. All right. And while we have our black in our hand, we're going to put in a large kind of rock and boulder here in the front, but I'm going to have folks switch to a bigger brush. So switch back to one of your bigger brushes. And we're going to put in kind of a boulder or a rock because there's going to be people sitting on this rock overlooking the lake and overlooking our fireworks. It'll be quite fun. So I'm going to use some black paint on this bigger brush. And I'm going to put kind of a rolling hill or kind of a double rock in here. And what it's going to look like is I'm going to start up here in this on the right side of the page by the right side of my horizon line. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a rolling kind of rock coming down. And my people, they need somewhere to sit. So they're going to kind of sit right here on this rock. So I'm not going to put anything on top of this, but just make sure you have somewhere that two people can kind of sit. So a little bit of a flat spot. And then you can paint this rock in the foreground. Maybe it's a hill. You can paint this in entirely. Don't be afraid to slather that paint right on. If you wanted to use a little bit of water, if you wanted to mix a little bit of blue with this, you could. I'm just going pretty straightforward and standard with this black. And I'm doing nice and smooth brush strokes. So all these lines just kind of blend in from one another. And I'm kind of starting on that top right side and I'm coming down, kind of flowing down the shape. Whenever you're painting an object, you kind of want to follow the shapes, follow that same path. So the shape can hold its actual form. And your brush strokes can be a big part of that. Awesome. Now tonight's inspiration is like a 4 or 5 on the difficulty scale. So our classes that we provide are all over the place. We do hard things, we do really detailed things. Actually, I wouldn't say they're hard. Some of you might think so, but we like to offer variety in these classes. So if you ever are inspired to paint something in particular, please let me know. We're always open to your own ideas. All right. So everyone should have your horizon line here. And I'll keep an eye on the clock. I'll give everyone kind of 2 full minutes just to refine your horizon line and refine this rock space. These 2 full minutes are going to be good because you can kind of come back in and reflect on these shapes. For me, I'm going to make my trees just a little more pointy. I'm kind of coming out my branches just a little bit. These are the details that we're making time for to get them right. And if you feel like you're in a good spot, then awesome. Make the tops of my trees nice and pointy. But if you have any questions along the way, please let me know. And at the end of the 2 minutes, we'll do our first flip and reveal. So if anybody that's comfortable and wants to share their work, me and others will certainly appreciate it. One of the things you'll learn about our classes is that we get inspired from one another. I'm sure one of you painted a beautiful mountain range that will just knock Sally's socks off. So believe it or not, these things happen. And I actually, I taught a kids class locally in Vermont this morning, and which I don't always do. And one of the children put a cherry, we painted ice cream cones, and one of the children put a cherry on top of the ice cream cones. And all the other children got inspired to add a cherry on top of their ice cream cones. So no matter our age, we want to see how others are doing, and we will typically get inspired one way or another. So it's a fun little story. All right. Who doesn't want a cherry on their ice cream, right? All right. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock. Give everyone another full minute. Just kind of take a look at your landscape. If you have mountains or trees, any silhouettes that you wanted to add, you can do that. If you're enjoying some tea or a beverage, make sure you're enjoying that. Don't drink out of the water cup. It does not taste very good. I've done it. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my my view in Zoom back to gallery view. So if anybody wants to turn on their video and be courageous and share off your awesome painting, we would love to see it. All right, here comes Miss Belinda. She's getting ready for it. All right. Oh, there's Miss Gail. Awesome. Gail and Co. All right. Beautiful. Melody. Great blues. Miss Sharon. Ooh, I want to go there. That's awesome. Oh, Sharon has such a dreamy sky. Wow. Very beautiful. Melinda, I love it. You all incorporated some of those darks too. That's awesome. There's Miss Dory. Dory, that's an excellent rock. I like yours better than mine. There's Miss Kathy. Linda, wonderful. Ooh, Miss Melinda. Those fireworks are going to jump right off the page. Awesome. Miss Deanne. Good blend of trees. And Miss Melinda. Melinda and Co. We have 2 Melinda and friends. Oh, there's Miss Sally. Awesome. Sally, I feel like I'm on the lake there. I can see the loons floating by. Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. It's always so much fun to see how everyone does something a little different. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like the vertical orientation for mine, but it's quite fun and different that I did it in this form. Thank you all for sharing. If you can give in the Zoom, there's reactions. Give me a thumbs up if you are ready for the next step, and give me the open mouth if you need more time. The oh no, Megan, I need more time face. All right, Sharon, it's okay, Sharon. Take your time. Oh, Kathy's needs some more Well, it'll give us all a chance for our canvases to dry here for a minute. Thank you all for the reactions. That was a great reaction response. All right. So this is a great part in the class where you can stretch back your shoulders. If you lift your hands in the air, stretch to the left and stretch to the right. Oh. As we get older, we crack and pop in these different ways, and stretching is so important. Oh, wonderful. All right, I'm going to go back to my speaker view, or you might see my spotlight here. Awesome. For anyone that needs more time, feel free to keep working. You won't get behind, I promise. These next steps are quite straightforward. We're going to do some of the fireworks in the sky next, which is very exciting. So with the red that I sent everyone, we can do that next. So we have these wonderful new paints by Reeves. You'll see the density and the quality is better. So thrilled I'm able to offer new paints. The other paints I've used in the past worked well, but these are a little bit better. So cheers to that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little bit of red paint on our plate. I squeezed out like a thumbnail, like you don't need too much. And you're gonna use one of your smaller brushes. Now I want to point out a detail on the coloring of the reflection in the water that is the American flag, right? So the blue on the left and the red on the right. So as we approach and we do our fireworks next, I want you to do some more of the red fireworks, more on the right side. We're going to do a couple of red kind of in the middle towards the left, but we're going to do 3 or 4 fireworks red ones on the middle to the right. And I might do one over kind of on the left a little bit, but we're going to do blue fireworks on the right or on the left. So we have the blue reflecting down on the left and we have the red reflecting down on the right. So the red fireworks is our next step. And we are going to put 3 or 4, you can choose, in your sky. And you can decide the size of them. So this is another really fun part. I did another firework inspiration with another group. It was actually with a group of boys, which was really fun in person. And you can do tiny fireworks or you could do big ones. So any way you want to apply these, feel free to do that. But grab one of your smaller brushes that I sent you. And I put a little dollop of the red and I'm mixing it around in my little well here. And what you're going to do is, these are bursts. So I'll do one down here in the middle first. You're going to do a burst to the left, burst to the right. You're going to kind of work your way around. Fireworks kind of have an imaginary circle around them. And they're going to burst to the bottom. They're going to burst to the top. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I kind of have one going up to the left, one going up to the right, and you're kind of doing a little bit of a feather and a flick at the end. And they don't need to all connect in the middle. And then I'm going to do a couple of extra bursts in between. And then the middle bursts in between are not touching. Kind of like flower petals a little bit, but it's in between, it's not touching. And you can kind of flick down a little bit to get that kind of exploding end. And you don't need to add too many. So let me count the number that I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it'd be like 15 to 18 kind of red explosions. because we're going to add some white in here too. So kind of use your eye, and you can add as many or as few as you wish. And you can always add more. So I'm going to do less is more initially. And I'm going to add some more fireworks. So I'm going to go kind of up here, and I'm going to go off my page. These fireworks up here are going to go off. And your red fireworks, they can overlap a little bit. That's okay. And I'm kind of starting in the middle and flicking out. You can go off the side of your page. My poor little turtle got paint on him. All right. I'm starting in the middle and kind of going out. And then in between some of these bursts, I can just do a couple little red ones. So this is your eye. You can approach these any way that you wish. Again, lean back in your chair. You'll see the shape of the firework come to life. That's what we're going for. We're going for the overall shape. And if you wanted to, we can do we're gonna do layers to these fireworks. We'll add a little bit of a lighter red layer, but let's just get some base fireworks down first. So I'm gonna do another big red one over here. Kind of middle left side. Again, they're bursting in all directions. That's an important part. And then I kind of do little bursts in between. And I'm kind of swiping down. I'm starting my brush stroke towards the middle and swiping out. So those little points on the ends are coming out and down. So the first step to our fireworks is a base red color. Some areas you may have a thicker red paint, some might seem like it's a little darker. I'll add in a secondary option for you to consider, is I'm going to take a little bit of white, like a tiny little thumbnail, not even thumbnail, little dot of white, and a little bit of my red. And I'm just going to make a little bit of, like, I don't want to call it a pink, but a lighter red color. And if you wanted to do a couple of these for an extra pop, outlining any of your bursts, you can kind of do it near it. We'll be adding some white too, so don't go too crazy with this if you're doing the pink like me. I'm just experimenting a little bit, being a little courageous. But we're going to use white as a true like brightener here after. I'm just doing a little bit of the pink just to see what it looks like. I like it, but it's optional. And once our red dries, we will come in with white. So work on those red ones, just let those dry, settle up. If you wanted to come back in and go over and do a second coat with your red, feel free to do that. So for me, I have some of the red, it's a little bit darker in areas, which means it's not kind of holding that bright red pigment. So I can kind of come back in with some of my red and just do some touch-ups, because acrylic dries really quickly. So it's okay to kind of come in and do some touch-ups on your red. Some of my ends have less paint, so I'm just coming in, just making a little bit brighter with the red color in itself. So art is, it's always an evolution in the regards to, like, you will come in with another layer of paint to add more detail. Typically to most objects, that will happen in all classes. And true artists, they might add 3 or 4 layers over a given object to really create depth or add the detail that they want. So even though we're painting simple fireworks, we're all practicing adding in different colors to create depth and to really highlight the characteristics of an object. And it can be as simple as fireworks. So I'm just taking my red paint and just really making sure my fireworks are kind of popping. And if anybody wanted to try adding just a little bit of pink, again, we're going to come in here with some white. I did my reds, so those I'm going to let dry. And remember I said keep your red fireworks on the middle to the right side. You can see I kind of went to the left a little bit. That's okay, because I'm going to put two big blue fireworks overlapping like this space. So I'll have a big one here and like right here. So as an artist, you think about where you want to place your items. That's something you should be thinking about, knowing what's going to come next. It's the practice of planning in the past, in the present and the future here. So it's just all fun things to keep in mind along the way. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry. We're not putting any white on yet. Just taking a look at those red fireworks. We're gonna maintain the use of our red. So before we switch to blue, we're gonna put the red in our water. So I'm gonna put a new dot. Oh, no problem. We're glad you're here. I did record tonight's class, so if you need to catch up, feel free to do that. Otherwise, you can just do a horizon line about 2/3 of the way down. We did a blue sky, some black silhouettes, and then a big rock, and then we're doing the fireworks. So I'm gonna grab my big brush to do this next step, but clean off your big brush well. We're gonna use the red paint, and this will be fun. So with your red paint, we're going to be very deliberate on our brush strokes and texture here. So with these big brushes, I have the large kind of round tip brush in my hand. Some of you received either the flat tip or the round tip brush. Either of those is fine. But when you hold these brushes in your hand, if you hold them on their side, it's either a wide brush stroke like this, but if you spin it, it's a more narrow brush stroke. So what I'm going to have you do is use this more narrow brush stroke. So you can have a more narrow stroke for our use here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do some swiping brush strokes to create some water texture. Now I want you to imagine you are putting an American flag as a reflection down here. And we're doing the American flag reflection with these horizontal swipes, which means this over here on the left is going to be blue. So the red should only come over about 2/3. But do some brush strokes. And if you come over into your black a little bit, nobody's going to know. But try to hold some of the white space. So I'm doing soft, gentle brush strokes to fill in the water. Gentle sweeps. If you push down hard, you're going to get more paint. But if you do light sweeps, you'll get some lighter areas. And try doing both. Try to do some pushing down a little harder, and you can kind of come over. You can come right up to the black. You're not going to see the red and the black. We're doing our reflection. And what you can do is you can come over a little bit here. Try to leave some white gaps. And if you have a lot of paint in one area or another, guess what? You guessed it, you could probably add more white. We're doing all horizontal brush strokes. And down here, I'm gonna kind of hold strong. You can, if you want, I'm gonna hold space for blue down here. So I'm just gonna be thoughtful of kind of creating some space for our blue. In the picture, they kind of have the whole bottom left side of the water blue. So you can decide how far over you want to bring your red, but it's going to be a little bit of a transition, so don't worry about it too much. There we go. And you can kind of, where it touches your rocks over here, you can add some more red. If you have any white spots, this is where you kind of lean back in your chair. So are you getting the lake effect you're kind of going for? It's quite fun. We can bring white on top of this. So if you just want to go crazy with the red right now, feel free. The other perspective of this is bringing in a little bit of black. So what I'm going to do is I can see some white, which is really good. I take and create just a little bit of a darker red tone. Look at that. And I'm going to incorporate a bit of shading in the water. So this is nighttime, right? So I want to include a little bit of the darker red brushed in as well. So it's a little scoop of red and a tiny corner of black. A little black will go a long way. And I'm kind of making this brick color, and I'm using the flat side of my big brush. So I'm just doing a little bit of this darker, and I want to see some white still. So this is a little bit of a balance. Just play with it a little bit. If you have any questions, let me know. You could try dipping your brush in a little bit of water. Ooh, super helpful. Look at that. I could always come back in and add more white, but if you need help with blending, dip your brush in a little bit of water, do some gentle sweeps. Beautiful. If you do something you don't like, you can always paint over it. So white is our eraser. So you can always kind of grab a little bit of white, and there's stripes in the American flag, right? So you can come in, and once the red is dry, that's when we're going to come in and do some white. Otherwise, if you put in white right now, it's not gonna come out. So do the reds, and if you do any of the darkness for like the blacks, like the darker red that I did, do that first, and then we'll do some of the white reflection after. It's a component of art where we have to be patient that there's steps for something to come out the way that we want it to. And this is such a good example of, we can't add the stars to the flag in this instance, and the stripes to our flag before the sea has dried. So it's just a fun part. Sometimes folks don't like waiting, and I understand that. I do a lot of tea building classes where folks jump ahead, and it's okay, but you might have smudging. All right, so there's a few things going on right now. We've used a lot of our red, so I want you to finish any detail that you want with your red, because our next steps will be to add our blue fireworks to the sky, add our blue to the water, and then we're going to do a ton of white detail all over. So for me, I'm going to evaluate and look at my fireworks in the sky. Am I happy with the amount of red up there? I think so. Am I happy with the red coverage I have in my water? Yeah, I think so. I know that we're going to be adding some white to it to lighten areas. Some of you may not have added some of the darker contrast. If you don't want to add the darker contrast, that's okay. You are in a position to make those choices and those decisions. All right. So I'll keep an eye on the clock. I'll give everyone just a full minute and then check in with how you're doing. But if there's any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Again, we're doing all horizontal brush strokes down here. Some of you may have painted some red on your black areas. So I can see red kind of coming into this mountain. So if anybody wants to come in and put a little bit of black paint just to cover it up, you can. Easy thing to do. Paint dries. Again, another layer of refinement, covering up that. Maybe on your ridge line down here. You do another clean sweep. And you can see the reflection of the wet paint with the light, which is kind of funny. There we go. I'm loving this inspiration. I hope you all are too. It's one of the most beautiful things when we appreciate these beautiful color bursts in the sky. It's kind of what it feels like. We're all kind of sitting here witnessing it together. And I'm going to get that blue paint ready for our next step. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix a light blue color first, just a little bit. And then we'll use blue down, like the normal blue color that's in the sky for down here. And I'll let you play with those. But we're going to make a light blue color, so a lighter tone than the sky, so a lighter blue tone. And I'll mix that with you so you can see the color that I come up with. So a little blue and a little white. And I'm going to use one of my smaller brushes, and we're going to do a couple of blue fireworks. If your red is still wet, I can see some of my red is still wet. You can always, if you want to start down here in the water, you can. Some of your red, you just need to be careful over here. You shouldn't have too much smudging, but it should be all right. I'm going to grab a small brush again. We're going to do blue fireworks. And I'm going to mix the blue and a little bit of white together. So I'll bring that kind of in the middle here so you can see it. You want this to be a lighter tone of the blue, basically. And you need far more white. So I'll go like 75% white with this blue. These are new paints. I have to figure out how to mix these. But any lighter tone of blue works, because we're going to be using white as an accent color for all these fireworks. I'm going to go a tiny touch lighter. And I'm practicing patience to find the right color. So it's okay to not be rushed or feel rushed when you paint. And that's if you're in any group classes, just know you don't have to rush. Just you do you. You'll always catch up. And even if you're at home and you're painting by yourself, just know to enjoy the process. All right. So I'm going to do 2 blue fireworks on the left side. I'm just going to kind of go for it. And then they're going to layer on top of the red. So you got to be a little courageous and find. And again, I'm starting in the middle. And I'm kind of just flicking out to create those streams. Beautiful. And this one's going to go off the page. And you can always change the color of your blue if you wish. I'm kind of like going in between some of these for a little extra burst here and there. You can see I'm doing kind of the bursts in between. I personally like this technique. I like the way it looks. So in between these bursts, I'm just going to do another one. Kind of going up and I'm flicking. That one was kind of crazy. Guess what? It's all right. I also remind you in these classes to not take things too seriously. Imagine that. Fireworks can overlap. They do that in nature. I'm kind of lean back in your chair and you'll know when you have enough of those bursts. My fireworks are pretty simple. I did a fireworks inspiration and they had a lot more bang. They kind of look like flowers at first and then we transformed them into fireworks. It's pretty funny. And some of you might have flowers, but there's no judgment. But the white that we do as a final step will really help with the detail. And I'm thinking, well, do I have what I want? Do I have what I need here? I'm trying to figure out. I'm gonna keep this nice and simple. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding some kind of flare, some like white kind of lower fireworks coming from the baseline. And I'm going to hold, see all this blue space I have? I'm going to hold that. So some of you may have a lot of blue space above your ridge line here. If you do, hold it. If you can retain any blue space, do that, because we'll do some fun kind of white rockets coming up down here. So for me, I was considering to put another firework here, and I just decided not to because I'm going to do a couple of these fun rocket launchers kind of going up. So that would be fun. So I'm just keeping those fireworks as is. And I'm not going to do any other colors right now. I'll do white detail on those after. But I'm just doing basic colors. And then whenever you're ready, I'm going to come down and do some of the blue kind of out of the box down here in the water. I'm going to do horizontal brush strokes. And as you transition, the blue can come over into the red a little bit, right? This is a body of water. One color is going to blend into another. You can use, I'm going to go back to the bigger brush. And I'm using the blue right out of the tube for this step. And I'm going to let my sky dry, because we'll do the white detail in the sky next. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I hope that you're all enjoying this. I am. This is so much fun tonight. All right, so I'm going to use the flat side of the big brush, and I'm going to incorporate some of this blue, just like I did with the red. You can bring the blue over into the red, so one color bleeds into the other. And you can be uneven. So with the transition, do some a little longer and do some a little shorter. So do some a little longer, do some a little shorter. That will help with making it look more natural with the color change. And you'll play with that. That's a perspective and kind of getting that right. See, I'm doing a couple of extra longer blue ones because I needed it to help to the eye. It's where you kind of lean back in your chair and say, okay. I'm doing those soft horizontal sweeping strokes. You'll know when you need more paint, but you can use not a ton of paint on your brush to kind of create this texture. You dip your brush in a little bit of water, see what that does. Beautiful. Make sure you go all the way off the edge of your canvas. You want these nice and horizontal. You could use your finger to smudge it around. We tend to use our fingers sometimes as an extra tool in our classes. I'm not afraid of getting dirty. Right. I'm just gonna ever so slightly just work my way down. You can see I'm leaving in a few white gaps here and there. If you get a little bit of blue in this ridge line right here, don't worry, because you can always go back in with some black and clean that up. It's just really about you're creating this water experience with this red, white, and blue effect. We're doing those base colors of red and blue first, and we're going to come in and bedazzle it with white after. but I'm being intentional in keeping some of the white, as you can see, holding my brush on the side, which means it's not totally full coverage. You can bring your blue in a little bit more, but staggering those brush strokes, long and short will help the blend. And I'll bring this a little closer. I feel like the video isn't doing it justice, of the staggering of the colors. So you can see there's blue that come in and out and in and out, long and short. That helps with the blending. And you may realize, hey, I might need to bring in some more red. For me, I'm feeling like I want to bring in some more red down here. Now you can do that, but just make sure your blue is dry, which mine is almost dry down here. Because if you bring in the red to the blue, it's going to make a mucky purple. Which if you want to add purple, that's fine, but I'm not. But I'm going to take a little bit of this red and just ever so slightly, just bring it in here to the blue in a few areas, just to help with the transition. Again, that's just my eye. I'm not going to do too much. But these are just final touches that I want you just to recognize and think about. Just doing, kind of leaning back on my chair. You could try blurring your eyesight. It's kind of strange, but this is really a color perspective thing. Try not to look at the brush strokes, try to look at the structure of color. So if I kind of blur my eyes a little bit and I'm looking at the structure.
Megan, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a question?
You cut out and we couldn't hear what you were saying.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know that. Thanks for saying something. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what I was saying is there's a perspective when you look at the colors and not the brush strokes, is for you to recognize where you could blend one color in from another. So it's kind of like blurring your eyesight a little bit, kind of lean up a little higher in your chair and looking at the two color structures differently and to figure out where you might want to add maybe a little bit more red into the blue and a longer brush stroke or vice versa. So it's just a perspective to keep in mind. Awesome. So I'm going to give everyone some time to work on these details. Again, for me, it's refinement. I've put the blue in. I'm happy with my blue. So now I'm kind of looking back at my red and just refining my water before I go in and add that white detail. I'm going to put the white detail all over. And I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. I kind of have a dry brush with a little bit of paint. So it's just kind of a tint of red that I'm using. And I'm kind of pulling it over into my blue just a little bit here and there to help with the transition. And this takes practice. And this class and these opportunities with AARP Vermont is a great opportunity to practice these blending skills. And no, you're not always going to get it right the first time, but that's okay. None of us get it right the first time. So you're going to get to a point where you're going to be happy with your water. You're going to be happy with your blending. You can just stop and take a break when you're ready. I'm going to come back in with my black. I put a little bit of blue into my forest above here. So I'm using my black just to clean up this horizon line. So some of our final touches for tonight's class are going to be all with white paint. So we're not going to touch the blue or the red after these steps. So I want you to be happy and satisfied with where you've added blue and where you've added red, because we'll be doing the white detail in the sky for the fireworks. We'll be doing the white detail in the water, and then we'll be doing some white rockets shooting up from the shore. So I'll keep an eye on the clock. I'll give everyone a solid 2 more minutes just to do any refinement. If you need more time, that's absolutely fine. You take it. But don't hesitate to check your posture, stretch a little bit. I am going to step away and grab a quick cup of water. So I will be right back. All right. I would love to hear any feedback on what y'all think so far about this. I like this a lot more than I thought I would personally, but I would love anyone's feedback on the inspiration. I'm quite happy with it. Oh, Melody has her partner home. He's probably going, Melody, you've done such a good job tonight. Look at those fireworks. If anybody wants to, if you're at a good point to do a flip and reveal, feel free. I'm going to flip back to gallery. Melinda's like, yes, let's do it. I want to see Melinda's. Oh, so fun. Oh, Melody, nice work. Well done, ladies and gents. Here comes Miss Sally and Deanne. Oh, Deanne, your water blending looks awesome. Oh, Sally, I want to go there. Oh, Linda, you have great water. Awesome. Oh, Melinda and Co. Look at that big white firework I saw. That was a big light blue firework. That was awesome. Melinda's partner here. Here comes Char. Let's see how Char's doing. Ooh. All right. Miss Deanne, great to see you. Woohoo. All right, well done, ladies and gents. All right, give me a thumbs up if you're feeling pretty good about your reds and blues. If you're ready to transition to the whites. Do not want to rush you, but I feel like many of you are probably pretty close. Look at all those reactions. Thank you for acknowledging that. All right, cool. So, ladies and gents, when you're ready, go ahead and clean your brushes because we are done with all of our colors except our blistering white here that's going to come next. This is the fun part. Well, this is an extra fun part. All right, I want you to find the smallest brush I sent you. Some of the smallest brushes that I sent, if you're new, they're small gold numbers on the sides of these blue brushes. They are difficult to see, but once you find them, you'll know where they are. It's about halfway down. The number 1 brush or the 2/0 fraction brush. I have a number 1 brush in my hand, so I'm going to use that. So you either probably have a 1 or a 2/0. It's a fraction brush. Okay, so let's have some fun. Let's start with these rockets coming up from the distance, kind of underneath, because some of our blue fireworks might be wet and our blue water is probably still drying. So go ahead and put some of the white paint, a new little dollop of white, unless you have a clean white dollop available. You want a clean dollop. Most of my whites have pink or red or blue in it. But go ahead and get your smallest brush wet and get it in some of the white paint. And you can spin your brush so you have a nice fine point with some paint on it. So fun. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do these like rockets that are kind of coming up from behind the mountains, and they're going to have a little bit of an arc to them. And they're going to have like a little circle burst on the end. So I did one, and I was going to kind of put a little bit of a circle on the end. Now, if you want to get creative and do like a little mini firework, I'll show you what one looks like. I don't know what this is going to look like. So if you want to do like a little bit of a burst with some little dots, you can. But it's going to have a little bit of a bend to it. And I'm going to do them in clusters of 3. I'm going to do another one kind of straight up. Like these are being shot from the ground. And it's going to have a little circle kind of on the end. And I kind of like did little kind of lines, kind of making it look like a little flower, but it's kind of fun. If you don't want to do the lines, you don't have to. And then these can be really light in color. You don't have to do them so bright if you don't want them to. And you can do a little light one in between. So the lighter you do your brush stroke, the thinner the line will be. These can kind of come up tall. They can go all the way up into your fireworks if you want. Crazy. Take your time. But you want them to have a little bend towards the top, like it's shooting off and it's turning. I'm doing some that are low and some that are high. It's kind of like there's multiple firework shows going on at the same time. You can go nice and light. I'm going to add a little bit of swagger, a little bit of a wave. You could do that. These little dots and circles are optional. I'm going to be the guinea pig and show you what they look like with and without them. I kind of like it with them, but it's kind of fun to have some without them. So you can add as many or as few as you wish. And I'm going to leave some space in between my clusters. So I'm going to come over to the right. So make sure you have some going to the left, you have some going straight up. And I'm doing a very light hand, very soft brush stroke. It's like a little bit of a flick. You'll feel it. It's nice and soft. You're moving the tips of the bristles around. You can put a little dot on the end of these if you want. You can do a little spark. You do what you're inspired to do. But flicking up towards the sky. Kind of fun. Might do one more just coming off the page to the right. Very light brush stroke. All right, and I like these little dots on the end, but again, you can decide some of those details. You can do some streams with dots, some without. All right, so our fireworks as well are going to have lots of details. So this is another really fun part. So using your white paint, maybe start, you can start with the reds. I'm going to start with the reds. We're going to do some white bursts inside the fireworks as well. So you can kind of do as many or as few as you wish. But this is a highlighting detail to your firework. So what I'm going to do is you can kind of pick a couple of these red bursts, and I'm just going to do a little bit of white kind of along the side of it, maybe to the left, maybe to the right, just to create a little bit of an extra burst. One of the things that we all recognize with fireworks is they are so bright in the sky, and the white is really what's going to start to highlight some of the brightness. There are also white dots in the middle of these fireworks. So if anybody wants to add, I'm going to add white circles in the middle of each of these fireworks. That's another detail. So maybe I'll add white circles first. They do not have to be precise. There we go. So adding white circles in the middle of each of your fireworks is an option. This is where the burst and the explosion happens. They could be small white circles, they could be big. I'm doing some small and I'm doing some big. You can always, if you have too big of a white circle, you can always change it. But what you're going to do is, using the white paint, you're going to follow just a couple of these bursts and add a little bit of a white accent. And this is a really by eye thing. You don't have to do it on every single one, but maybe every other, you can add a little bit of white. And I'm going to do the same thing to the blues. So we're just having some fun adding white bursts to our fireworks. And you can kind of work your way around. If you want to overlap some of the blues, you can do that. It's turning into quite a show over here. But you'll know to do too many, right? So you can stir your white paint around, spin your brush in your paint to get that nice fine point. But the white is an accent. Kind of lean back in your chair as you go to get the perspective of what you're highlighting. You're highlighting the explosion. And your fireworks will overlap. Your blues will overlap. Your whites will overlap. Be in the moment. See where it goes. You're using the same brush strokes that you used for the reds and the blues for the white detail. Now I'm being very mindful. I'm going to talk about it so you can think about it. I'm making sure I'm not doing too much white because I want to make sure I see the colors of the fireworks. So this red one here in front is a really good example of that. Just a little sprinkle of white, just a little bit. And it was really light. I think the every other and you can kind of create the movement of the fireworks falling down too. It's some of those sizzling fireworks that kind of sizzle down to the ground. You can create that effect with this white detail. You can pull it down to the ground, some more droopiness if you wanted to try that. It's kind of fun. For me, I feel like I'm not going to do too much more white for my fireworks. Fairly happy. And if anyone feels like they added white where they shouldn't have, it's okay. Just let the white dry. You could always go back in with your blue or red. So for me, I have a couple areas that I would go in and I would just cover up some of the white just to make a touch up. But again, not to take work too seriously. We're creating a beautiful firework extravaganza. And then there's some really fun dotting that's happening around these fireworks, kind of a circular dotting if you look at the inspiration in the picture. I will show you what that is if you want to try it. I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush and making sure I have a nice dollop of white paint. This is like really tiny detail, but I'm literally using the end of my paintbrush and having a little point. And what they did is they put a floating circle of dots around these fireworks, which is so crazy. So I'll show you what it looks like if anybody wants to do it. Again, I'm using the end of my paintbrush. You can see how there's a little tip, a little dot. I'm doing a little around these fireworks. It's kind of an extra kind of sparkle, kind of bursting effect. And they're just little dots. I'm kind of doing like 2 or 3 dots. Look at this, so fun. It's kind of like an imaginary circle around. So if that's something you wanted to try, you could even kind of bring it in a little bit. This is just an extra detailed touch. So you can have some fun and bring some of these sparkles inside the firework. And closer in. I'm going to be the dummy. So the example here, if you want to try it or not, you can decide. Just kind of, it kind of adds the sizzle from fireworks. So I'm not going to overlap I'm not going to overlap these dots on top of the firework, but I'm going to go kind of behind and in between some of the bursts to add some of this detail. So imagine you're doing an imaginary circle. I'm going to do an imaginary circle with these little dots. And this is optional, but this is kind of the sizzle and sparkle. And I'm using the end of my paintbrush. Little tiny dots. And I'm not being shy with my dotting. I'm asking you to be courageous with your dotting. Don't be afraid to do little tiny dots. But I like that, ladies and gents. I think that looks really cool. If you don't like it, I will not judge you. You do not have to do it. But if you want to try it with me, feel free. It's kind of an imaginary circle around. Little dots, kind of going in between the spark. So I'm not going on top of, but I just put an imaginary circle around this firework. So fun. And you can do little kind of in between. If you want to kind of blend your ring into your explosion, you can do little dots in between. So I put some in between right here. So fun. I like coming up a little bit. I'm going to do that for each of my fireworks. So I'm doing like 4, 5, 6 taps with my little dots, going back and getting a little bit more paint. Kind of just creating those bursts. These are all the sparks from the explosion. So cool. What a show, my goodness. Our fireworks show just keeps getting better and better. It was very expensive, wasn't it? All right. Oh, well, we have to thank ARP for this amazing fireworks display, Linda. Awesome. We wouldn't have this amazing display unless it wasn't for them. And again, I'm just doing that imaginary circle around, which is kind of neat, right? Because we're highlighting by this circle we're kind of creating where the fireworks are happening, and you can still see the night sky behind it. It's kind of fun. So you're going to define and decide how much of this you do and where you want to do it. This is my whole sky, as you can see, which is quite fun. I have a really good seat for the show. And again, you can kind of do up and in between if you want. And if you wanted to add any kind of stars in the sky, you could. I'm not going to add any stars in the sky, but if you wanted to, if you had any blue gaps, if you had more blue sky showing than me, you could. But I'm happy with amount of sparkle And again, you can kind of do the white dotting in between some of these explosions, including between these bursts. It's really sparkling now, but you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna say, okay, I think I'm done with the sparkle and I think I'm there. So I'm gonna do the responsible thing and put my brush down. We have to manage our own perspectives there. But I'll keep an eye on the clock. I'll give everyone just a minute just to play with that. But we're gonna add a little bit of white to the water. So if anybody wants to do that now, you could. And then we'll add our silhouettes as our final step, sitting on the rock. And you could do one person, you could do your whole family, you could do your dog. If you don't want to add silhouettes, you don't have to. Whatever works. But I'm just going to take a little bit of my white and I'm going to use that small brush again. And you don't need a lot of paint on it. I'm just going to ever so slightly just do a couple of like white streaks here and there. I actually might even dip my brush in a little bit of water just to add in a little bit of the reflection, a little bit of the light reflection. It can be some long lines, all horizontal, right? You can use a light hand. You don't need a lot of paint on your brush. I'm just doing some swiping, some kind of abstract swiping, just to get a little bit of the white highlighting on the water. That's all I'm going for. You can use your finger to smudge, horizontal smudging. Little water on your brush. Nice soft drag. We'll also do it. Soft drag with your brush. You don't have to do a true brush stroke. The way you hold your brush can help you do different techniques. I'm kind of holding my brush on the side like this, and I'm literally pulling it, a soft pull. And you don't always know like what technique to do. You just kind of be in the moment and you just kind of pay attention to what technique am I trying to create, right? And how much white paint do I want to see? And do I want it to go on gently? And there's gentle ways of putting on paint, applying paint with a brush or with your finger, right? So I have some nice reflection. Again, if you do something you don't like, you can take some blue and kind of cover it up. Smudge some blue on. But for me, I'm fairly happy with my water. I feel like there's more white in the picture, so I'll be a little bit more bold here and I'll do a little bit heavier white, like in the inspiration. Maybe I'll use my finger to smudge. There we go. Get a little bold here. A little more bold. See what's a little bit brighter. Let's see here. And these can be, like stripes. If you want to do actual stripes, you could do stripes like the American flag. Smudge the white over into the blue using my finger. I'm going for the true stripe look, and you can see it's actually happening now because I'm using more pigment. Some of you probably got that right the first time. And I'm going to do some more stripes down, maybe some down here. Again, all horizontal. And then the blue are kind of scattered like stars a little bit. So if you wanted to just do little white horizontals and then just rub it in with your finger. You can be as deliberate with your white markings or as abstract as you wish. And I think that's pretty good for me. In the picture, the white is a little bit more contrast, but you do you. I think we get the idea here. So everyone's at different steps. What we'll do is we'll do the silhouette next. And then you all could keep working at your own pace. Again, if you're interested in signing up for our August classes, I did post the links in the chat. So take a minute to maybe grab those, maybe click on them and open them in your browser. I will pause and let you click click on those if you'd like to sign up. They tend to sell out. Right. All right. So I want everybody to take their time. I'm going to do the silhouettes as a final step. If you'd like to do them with me, you may. I'm going to do, I'm going to do 3 people. I have a son. His name is Asher. He's almost 3. So I'm going to do 3 people. And these are just black silhouettes. So it's a head and they're sitting on this rock. So it's a head. And my husband's arm is coming out maybe, and a body, you know, they're just sitting. And these are not stick figures, so they need shoulders. Shoulders are important. So you just do a head and a neck, and then you can do kind of some flat shoulders. And then I'm just gonna do kind of 3 heads and some hair. And then a body. Maybe his arm is around me. You can figure out where to put the arms and things. Maybe my arm is around him. And then our wee little son over here is losing his baby mind. It's the first time he's ever seen fireworks. So you can play with the length of your arms, the density of the bodies. The arms going around one another are, the bodies can be, you know, they don't have to be thin. They can be, you know, a little more thicker, but the shoulders help when you do silhouettes typically. It's quite nice. And then I'll give my husband hair if I can figure out how to do that. There we go. All right. And you might want a second coat of black paint based on how it went on. No big deal. You might want to do a dog. You might not want to add silhouettes. That's okay too. Whatever you want here. My husband's bigger than this. I should probably make him a little bit bigger, huh? All right, I'm gonna bring this a little closer so you can see the silhouette. My son kind of looks like a dog, but I'm just gonna pretend like it's a little boy. It's all right. Maybe I'll put his arm in the air like he's cheering or something. So everybody's working on final details. I'm gonna put a little arm in the air like he's excited. There. There. If anyone has any questions with any final details, please let me know. Some things you can look at as you look around your painting are doing any black touch-ups. So for me, I like to stick my fingers all over the place. So I have a little bit of white in my black. I have some blue in my black. Just taking your black paint and just doing some nice, clean black touch-up lines is always helpful. I got a little crazy with my white. You know, I got some white in my black on the canvas. So you can look around to see if there's any cleanup areas you wanted to do. Give everyone a couple minutes. But I'd love to see if anyone has to go soon. I understand we are pretty much wrapping things up, but I'm here to add any additional details or answer any questions. Making my trees a little taller. And if you want to keep working and evolving your artwork tonight, you can do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change my view to gallery, and I'm going to take a look at each of you, and I would love to see how you're doing. Some of you may be working on those final touches. Some of you may be wrapping up, but you will know when you are done. That is one of the most obvious things about art that you learn to figure out. Oh my goodness, Sally, amazing. Sharon and Melinda. Oh my goodness, ladies and gents. Miss Gail, Melody, look at those explosions. Look at those rockets coming at Melody. Those are perfect. Oh, Miss Linda, I love your dots around. Amazing. Oh, Miss Jean. Ooh. Jean, I love yours. Jean added some white dots on her city line to add some lights in the distance. That's so cool, Jean. And there's Miss Melinda and Co. Wonderful. The stories. What did you add for your silhouettes? What is that? You can unmute and tell us. It's a little blurry. I can't see it. Oh, Deanne, that's amazing. Everyone look at Deanne's. I want to go to that firework display. That's incredible, Deanne. Oh my goodness. I love it. So everyone has those links. I will post one more link in here. I'm looking to build my review base on Google Business. So if anyone is interested in sharing feedback on the class tonight, I would love your review for my business page. Many of you have done these classes, and I would love your feedback. What goes well, what doesn't. If there's anything you're interested in painting in the future, please let me know. But I did drop my review link in the chat window. I really enjoy these classes, but I'm always welcome to feedback. But I wanna thank you all for coming. I am here to answer any questions. If anyone has any final touches that you need a little extra support on, I'll stick around for a few minutes. But a big thanks to AARP Vermont again for having us, Miss Linda sharing all the volunteer opportunities. But thank you for being here for you, and I hope that you had a nice time in the past hour and a half or so. Awesome. And again, I hope to see you in August. And we'll be painting on black canvases. It'll be so much fun and so different. We'll be painting a beautiful summer garden scene with lots of wonderful bright colors. But thank you again for coming. And my contact information is on these sheets. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for all your feedback. Awesome. Thank you, Deanne. Thank you, Linda and Stella, Miss Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Marie. I'm so glad you had fun. Miss Stella, thank you.
Thank you.
And Miss Marie, you know, you can always take your time. We acknowledge that we all take care.